I've been expecting you. Welcome to Showskaters podcast episode 9 with Sarah France. Sarah France is a multi-disciplinary artist based in New York City whose lifelong passion for movement and creativity has shaped her diverse career as a professional figure skater, dancer, choreographer, aerialist, visual artist, author and musician. She is currently performed with 2 acclaimed dance companies, the Ice Theatre of New York and the Equus Projects, New York City. Sarah began dancing at the age of 3 and started figure skating at age 11, driven by a profound love for spatial movement and the emotional depth of choreography. A US figure skating triple gold medalist in ice dancing and skating skills, Sarah has competed 6 times in the US Open Professional Figure Skating Championships. As a highly respected coach, she is known internationally for her expertise in skating, skill development and choreography, which she shares through Ice Theatre of New York's Master Edge classes. Her work has been featured in prominent publications such as the New York Times and mentioned in the Wall Street Journal. And she has been interviewed on global news platforms for her contributions for Ice Theatre of New York. As an LGBTQ+, neurodivergent and disabled artist, Sarah proudly represents her intersectional communities in both the dance and skating worlds. She remains an active advocate for diversity and inclusion in the arts, pushing for greater representation and accessibility. So, that's who Sarah is. Let's talk for a second a little bit about One Blades, because we haven't really been pushing too much. And the tough part for this, guys, is we're doing something so incredible, so futuristic, light years ahead of everything that's out there, so we can't show it yet. We can't show it until the right time. So at the moment, please support us. Go follow our Facebook and our Instagram, the links are below, and also sign up for our mailing list. This is where you'll hear first about how to become an affiliate and ambassador. They will be earning money through discount codes, etc, and then there'll also be some competitions to win a free pair of blades. There'll be ice, inline, quad, we're doing them all right. The first skating company in history to create all 3 at the same time. Do you understand? Do you understand how big that is? And when you've got the Godfather doing it, Dan Nicholson, you know, it's a recipe for success. Anyway, that's enough about One Blade. And also, guys, join Showskaters.com. I'm trying to build a community there, a community for skaters, choreographers, producers, everybody in one place. Join it. It really helps the podcast. It really helps me do what we're doing here. And without further ado, let's get Sarah on. Hello there. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. How has your day been?
It's been long and early starting, but great.
So you starting off with some coaching in the morning?
I taught edge class for ice theater at Bryant Park at 6:30 this morning. That was the beginning of the day. The
Wow.
end of my day is an 11:30 p.m. rehearsal start. So
Oh my God, it's insane. So do you do the edge classes most days?
we do the edge classes Tuesdays and Wednesdays through the outdoor skating season. Our Wednesday class stays consistent through our entire performance season, which is September through May. And that's indoors at Chelsea Piers Sky Rink in New York City. But Bryant Park, we run classes usually from the end of October through the beginning of March when the outdoor rink season is open. So
Fantastic. And for anyone that's listening,
yeah, come play. It's really fun.
yeah, you show up. You've got some rental skates. people.
No rental skates. You have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, come down, hockey skaters. Bring your hockey skates down.
I have had hockey skaters in my class and I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I think we can all learn a lot from just practicing the stillness of maintaining a curve. And I've worked extensively with hockey players in my coaching career and find them quite enjoyable. It's a very different dynamic than figure
Oh,
skaters.
definitely. I mean, blending different disciplines and different arts and different sports, and when you personally try different things and you bring them over, it's so fun. It's so fun. Anyway, shall we get down to business?
Absolutely.
Get this rocking and rolling. So, when you sent me your bio over, and I'm like, well, you started dancing at 3, you started skating at 11. I'm like, so did I. And I felt the benefits of dancing and skating, and then both at the same time. Like, for you personally, like, what was it like to be a dancer and then to be a skater, and how have they kind of complemented each other for you? And what kind of dancing did you do? Like, paint for us.
I've done a lot of types of dancing. So I think, honestly, I was a pretty movement oriented kid. I was constantly flinging myself around space, and I still am. And I think dance classes were an outlet and expression to give some structure and discipline to that and get me a little more coordinated, all of those things. I started in ballet when I was 3, and I very much enjoyed the, kind of discipline and structure of that type of dancing. But as I got older, I moved into modern dance in high school. I also studied ballroom quite a bit. When I started ice dancing, it was recommended to me to cross train in ballroom, so I did. I've done a lot of belly dance. I've done flamenco. I've done all sorts of fun things. And currently, right now, I'm performing with Ice Theater. I'm also performing with a dance company called the Equus Projects, where we are dancing with horses. So, yeah.
Oh, Sarah?
I don't know why my phone just
Hello?
blacked out for a second there.
With that,
You good?
my mind just went somewhere and then you disappeared. You were like, oh, hell no. I'm out of here. Are you still there? Can you hear me? Oh, we can see you. Mayday.
Adam, my phone has frozen for a second. I'm not sure if it's me or
We
what's
can see
going on
you.
here.
We can see you. The show must go on. Okay, so I guess she's going to pop off. I imagine she's going to restart. And whilst we're waiting for her to do that, I mean, I've got a spinner here, but I'm not going to do it. I've tried a few times. If anyone's got one of these, if you're rubbish like me, these are like death traps. That's what they feel like. Okay, Sarah's there.
I'm back.
There we go. You're back. I was about to start doing it to break some bones on this thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, so you dance with horses, eh?
I do.
Interesting, because yeah, I'm not gonna go there. I'm like my mind. I'm just the worst. But so this EQs that you do, like we were going to get into this later, but we kind of got there now. This seems very different, right?
It is.
Kind of explain what this kind of dance is.
I think the best way I can sum this up as somebody who's very much new to this world and incredibly respectful of the staggering and humbling amount of things I've had to learn in it is we're paying very close attention to a non-human partner's body language and shaping movement between ourselves and this, very large animal. And then also paying attention to other dancers and the environment we're in. So it requires a degree of focus and kind of sensory sensitivity in a way that is very different than skating, but I've drawn some incredible parallels between the two. And I found that it's been very complementary to the movement I'm doing on the ice in a lot of ways, because it's forcing me to think differently than my existing paradigms of, go here, do this edge. I'm thinking about choreography and about movement very differently as a result.
Yeah, definitely. And I really feel like when I've worked with some skaters that were also choreographers, and they would constantly just keep going to different dance classes, and then
Yes.
it just it's like a chef. You just keep getting more ingredients, different flavors, different, and then
Mhm.
what you can create is so much more rich than if you were just skating and you weren't
Right.
doing anything extra. So it really lends itself to becoming a great artist and a coach and choreographer and for your
Yes.
edge classes. I'm sure there's some movements that you bring into those edge classes.
I absolutely think that I am a better skater because I was a dancer first. And I think that yeah, I'm constantly trying to find new ways of moving and challenging myself. And I think that's always been some of the appeal to me, but it's not all of it either. There is kind of a very inherent drive within me to just be in motion. And I love that feeling with every fiber of my being.
Yeah,
It's what I want to do.
yeah, no. So we've I feel like we zoomed all the way forward to current times, but like
Yeah.
let's bring it all the way
All
back.
right, all the way back.
Because let's find a bit of humor. I mean, I'm already laughing, but I'm just laughing at myself, and no one else is laughing. But like when you were a kid, when you were skating, you're dancing. Can you remember any funny stories? Anything happened that the lights, the camera went off, or just something, just something for people to see you. It's
You
like
know, um, I'm not sure so much funny. I was very certain of what I wanted to do with my life, and really informed my family of that, and kind of stubbornly pulled them into this world. I knew at 4 years old I wanted to be a skater, and I wanted to live in New York City.
oh
Um,
wow,
and I was very clear on that. I had never been on the ice. I had never been even near the ice. Like I had no clue what I was doing. Um, and truly, my first experiences skating were a pair of, absolutely terrible used skates from a garage sale, and scraping off every frozen pond and lake and puddle I could find, and then begging for lessons until my family relented. And, I wonder, and I'm guessing they wouldn't disagree. They more or less started me in skating because I wouldn't shut up about doing this, and I was really adamant that that's what I wanted. And I tried so many other activities, and nothing had my heart in that way. But I started skating, in my first group class at age 11, and from there was like on the ice 6 days a week right away, and really pushing to do more with that because I wanted more vocabulary to move.
no, definitely. I mean, it's such a great thing to have when you're so young and you know what you want to do. Like when I was 13, I saw the Hot Ice Show.
Hmm.
I mean, I was still literally doing like a waltz jump, maybe a single toe, maybe a loop. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a professional skater and travel the world. Now at 43, I'm like, I did it. I mean, I did a lot more than I was expected to do, right? So
Right.
it's cool to see other people have this dream as a child and kind of go on to fulfill that dream and maybe surpass what you expected, to do. So that's amazing. So when you were younger, did you also compete?
I did. I competed in freestyle for about 3 years, and then I switched to ice dancing when I was 14. I competed until I was 19, and then quite happily left that world behind. Um, I was reasonably good at it, but I'm I wouldn't say I'm not a competitive person because I am, but I'm not really that interested in other people in a competitive sense. I want to do better each time I do something, and I'm very driven in that way. But I didn't get some sort of thrill of victory. I just really kind of liked having the ice to myself. That was about it. And the kind of rigidity of competing grated at me in a lot of ways. I think, looking back at this and realizing, that I was kind of forced into a position of adhering to a very strict set of rules that told me how I had to be all the time, really didn't function well for me as a person. And so I left that behind, really looking towards what was next, and honestly walked pretty much away from skating except for coaching for about 10 years. Um,
Oh, really?
so I felt broken at the end
Yeah.
of competing, and to um, I needed to find that why within myself again. And also, I think just kind of redefine what skating was going to look like. And, if I had one regret of that time, I had discovered the Ice Theater of New York when I was 15. And I was absolutely blown away by this creative, very interesting model of a dance company on ice, and was completely enamored by the work that was being done. And when I stopped competing, I didn't have the guts to send in an audition.
Ah,
And I did not end up joining this company until I was 34 years old. And the
wow.
last 6 years have been phenomenal for me. And I could not ask for a better timeline. I think in a lot of ways, it made me a better performer to be older and more at ease with myself. But competing really was not the part of skating I loved. I just, if left to my own devices, the best part for me has always been a really good piece of music, a lot of space, and being able to move until I can feel everything I need to feel.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. 10 years of coaching. But, you know, when you become a coach, you learn so much, don't you?
You
From
really do.
being coached all the time, it's it's quite nice. It almost makes you want to get back. Then you actually got back into skating. So
Yeah.
performance-wise, show-wise, it's primarily been the Ice Theatre of New York.
It has almost exclusively been the Ice Theater of New York. I did the US Open Professional Championships every year that was happening starting in 2015. And that was kind of my foray back into skating again in a lot of ways for myself. I did it simply because it was being hosted in the city I was living in at the time.
Yeah,
And I wanted an opportunity to do my own choreography and just be a part of that. I never had any illusions of being anywhere near the top group of people. I just wanted to put something out there in the world and say I made this, appreciate it or not. It's not
yeah,
my problem if you do or don't. But that was kind of the gateway into skating for myself. Truly, I think in a more significant way, and in a performative way than I had done in most of my life. And it was at the U.S. Open that I met Moira North, who's the founder and artistic director of Ice Theater, and she asked me to participate in, she was teaching a clinic at the Professional Skaters Association's conference. She was doing an edge class. She needed a demonstrator. I was attending that conference and kind of blew the entire thing off because I just really enjoyed listening to what she had to say about skating.
yeah,
And she was like, you should come to New York. And a few months later, I'm like, okay, I've arranged my life to make this happen. So
yeah.
I'm showing up in 2 weeks. And I really haven't looked back. I flew back and forth between Minneapolis, Minnesota, and New York City for the first year and a half I was here to continue coaching my students, which I was very invested in, doing as much as I could to continue to be a figure in their lives. And then when the pandemic happened, I chose to be stuck in New York, and I haven't really left.
Wow. And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So now you've been living in New York. Amazing.
Mhm.
So, wow. I mean, do it for yourself. This is something Simon talked about in the previous podcast, and I think sometimes you do compete with other people, and it's I don't know, it can be tough when you just do it for yourself. You try to self improve in whatever you're doing. That you can see the growth is there. You know who you were yesterday. You don't know who these people are, and so I see that this is what you do. I mean, what do? You do so much. You're on the ice. You're doing pairs. You've done freestyle. You've done dance. You're on inlines. You're flying. You're pairs, and then you're on the synthetic ice. Well, see,
Yes,
we
I.
yeah, I'm going to tell people a quick story here. I was talking with Julian the other day with at Dan's, and we were talking. I was like, plastic ice. He's like, don't call it plastic ice. It's not ice. It's in synthetic. Synthetic is like it's a skating show. It's not plastic ice. There's no ice. But anyway, back to
Yeah.
this. You do a lot. You do a lot of things. Like what drives you? I know what drives me. Like obviously, try to do a lot of things. I know what drives me. What drives you personally to step out of your comfort zone and do something where you start kind of at the beginning and you try to improve and then blend them together? Where does that drive come from?
I think it comes from a few different places. One is that I'm not a terribly naturally comfortable person. So I don't tend to relax as a general principle of how I live. I constantly am challenged by the world I'm in, and I think some of this is I'm autistic. I have challenges in navigating things because I do see the world very differently than most people. And I think that constant grading of not necessarily feeling like I ever fit in the world um, led me to, instead of waiting for someone to hand me a place, I kind of had to force a place for myself. And so I was very driven to build a world that could function with the world I live in my head.
Yeah,
And I think too, because of that and because of the way my mind works, I don't really experience emotion unless I'm in movement. So dancing and skating became a major self-regulatory tool for me to understand how I feel, and be able to process that and really learn to deal with myself. And I still to this day, if I'm having a bad day, I need to go move my body. If I'm having the best day of my life, I need to go move my body. I have to have that mechanics of motion in order to really understand or articulate anything about how I feel, and that's very important to me. So it is a ritual of my days that's vital. But I think too, I like to fail at things. I like a challenge. I love to solve problems,
yeah,
and I think one of the most beautiful things about skating and about dance is that you're never done. There's not a threshold where you've finished everything. There's always something more you can try. There's always something that you can invent. You can always pose a new challenge for yourself. And I think that lack of completion is a very driving factor for me. I tend to exhaust a subject matter until I've learned everything I can about it, and then I'll walk away, like never look at it again. I've not been able to do that with these things because there's always someone trying something different. There's always something new to do. And I've found plenty of avenues to pursue things in offshoot directions. And yeah, I've been involved in skating in every discipline of the sport, either competitively or professionally. And then I've added in inlines and quads and aerial components on 4 different apparatus and and I'm always excited about what can happen next.
oh, wow. I'm curious. So you when you talked about you see the world differently, like do you feel like there's some how can I put this? Like some challenges for you personally with what you do. It's like kind of I want to understand, the
Yeah.
challenges that you kind of that you see personally with this because I'm quite.
Yeah, I'm happy to, I could go into great detail, but I have always struggled socially, and that's something I've really had to work on. I'm also not a terribly verbal thinker, so very often for me, finding the right words for things, I tend to communicate extremely directly. Sometimes that can be, a little complicated with people. And I think too, my sensory environment of how I experience basic things is just, it's kind of on a highly extreme level. The lights are brighter for me, the sound is louder. I'm very aware of everything I feel and come into contact with, on a level that can be immensely distracting. And I have to very much be deliberate about what I'm focusing on and what I pay attention to. And those things do shape how I interact with my world on a constant daily basis. I struggled a lot with kind of forming the, structure of what an independent adult life would look like that would function for me, including some pretty severe burnouts from trying to do too much or feeling like there was, all of these things I wasn't achieving that other people were achieving, and learning to let go of some of that pressure of myself was really vital to ultimate success. That just my experience of walking through the world is going to be different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's very important to me as someone that does coach, that I'm very upfront about the person I am. Because I was a kid that did not have much exposure to people who were different in my skating community. And it was very much you will homogenize with all the other people and you will act like us and do as us, or you won't be accepted. And I want to offer an alternative view. I really, I believe firmly in carving out space for voices that are different, and for people of all walks of how they want to go through the world, and who they are, frankly. Um, and so that has been something that I'm immensely proud of in my coaching career, is really truly trying to build space for skaters to be themselves in a way that is authentic to them, and to honor their version of success in skating, whether or not it is what I, as a coach, would want for them, whether it's what their parents want from them, whether it's what their skating federation wants for them. It has to be their version of success. My version of success has been to be able to have the opportunities I have here doing this now. But, you know, I think a lot of people would have really preferred if I had just, stuck to the script.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people kind of they see you in one way, but they don't know everything.
Hmm.
There's something that I've been wanting to. I've talked to a few people about this, and I think it just comes down to human nature. For example, let's use me as an example. Let's imagine someone knew me when I was 23, 24 in hot ice, taking loads of drugs, partying all the time, an absolute nightmare. And then they didn't see me for 20 years. And now they see me doing some podcasts and they remember me as an absolute crazy party guy. But I would, you can't help. You don't see what someone's done for 20 years. So we all put everyone in boxes and we see them as that way. I do it. We all do it. And I think we all need to just take a little step back and look at what we've personally done. Have we tried to grow? How are we navigating the world? And then just give everyone a break. Like everyone, especially when you're parents and you're in communities that are trying to help people, they're probably good people. They're just going through a tough time. It's been a tough time the past few years, hasn't it?
A lot of tough, yes.
Really, really hard. So I would just say, everyone, just more love, less hate. See other people's perspective, have empathy, and to talk about autistic. When you were going through, I'm like, Yeah, yeah. Like for myself, you know,
Mhm.
it's like there are a few autistic people in my family, and I'm always thought, like, I'm probably definitely, you know, there's some socials, there's been situations for me. I'm best when I'm just by myself. I can't annoy really anyone.
I am also require a large amount of time to myself in order to function with other humans kind of person. And some of that is, I think I'm very deeply introverted in a lot of ways. I require a lot of that time. There are people who are quite extroverted who are also autistic. But for me, I think kind of learning that about myself, and because I wasn't diagnosed as a kid, I was diagnosed as an adult. When I was struggling in a lot of ways to just function in a very basic sense, it made a lot of things make sense for me. And it put kind of a perspective where I could be a little more gentle to that, kid that was just having a really hard time in the world. And, I tend to be fairly hard on myself. I'm very driven by nature. I could be ambitious to a fault if I allow it. But I I needed that perspective in a lot of ways, I think, of saying, no, like it's okay if this doesn't work for you.
Yeah, no, of
Um,
course, no, of course. I mean, we can't be
and
too hard on ourselves, right?
yeah,
You know, it's maybe you're a little bit like me, you don't have an off switch sometimes.
I tend to go until I am forced to stop. And I probably have the world's most terrifying sleep habits, but
Yeah.
we function sort of.
Oh, we got a little bit deep there, Sarah. That was
Yeah,
good. It's good. It's good to share. You'll get some emotions out. Right.
I'm very, very open about my life as long as the right question is asked.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So, shall we talk about Ice Theatre of New York?
I would love to talk about Ice Theater of New
So,
York.
so kind of let's talk about how you came to be in Ice Theatre of New York. I know you did mention a little bit, and what has been your role, and how has it kind of evolved over the past 6 years? I think you said, and what is your present day role?
So, I would primarily categorize myself as I've been part of the professional ensemble for the 6 years I've been a part of this company, and that's kind of the overarching performative aspect of the work I do. I have also, in the last few years, taken over teaching the Edge classes on behalf of the company, which is wonderful, and I enjoy being able to combine my love of teaching with my love of all things ice theater. And I've served as the outreach director. And, I kind of, I think, serve a function in a lot of ways of, I like to problem solve. So when problems come up, I enjoy being handed the task of how do we figure this out. And then I've been choreographing recently as well within the company. And that's work I'm really hoping to spend more time in, especially as I'm getting older and performing is getting harder. I think I have so much more creatively I'd like to share. And, it's such an honor to be involved in this company doing this work that I looked up to so much and still do as we're in our 40th anniversary season this year, which is very exciting. Yeah, and we've been going through the archives of what Ice Theater has done for the last 40 years, and I'm constantly blown away by the depth and the beauty and the risk of that work is phenomenal to see.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? 40 years. 40
Yeah,
years.
I have incredible respect for that work.
And for anyone that happens to be watching that is unfamiliar with what Ice Theatre of New York is, can you explain what it is and kind of the ethos and the mission of the theatre?
Yeah. So the Ice Theater of New York is actually North America's first nonprofit dance company on ice. And so the kind of mission of that work is to expand that. type of movement in a performative aspect and bring it within the world of people in New York City and beyond, as a dance company that happens to wear very specialized footwear. And I really relate this in a lot of ways to, we think of ballet and we associate it with point shoes, and ice dancing, we have our skates. And to me, this is a very easy and similar transition. It does not feel the same as participating in sport per se, but
Yeah.
everyone who's a part of that company, we all have backgrounds where we did train as athletes, and as artists. And that, kind of beautiful combination of the two is where we arrive at this work. Ice Theater works with skating based and dance based choreographers, which can lead to some really fascinating collaborations and, some beautiful creations that are made because they, we bring in someone who sees movement differently than we do, or doesn't have that, okay, this type of turn goes here and that's what's logical in skating. It's a, how do you move across this space in a way that's interesting, or challenging at times.
No,
So,
it's I remember that one of the first time I heard about it or I saw something, and it was just so different, like a different level. I think at the time I'd probably done Disney on Ice, maybe
mhm,
Holiday and Europa Park, these kind of shows. And then it
mhm.
was almost like you used to you go to watch the theatre and you're watching, Christmas shows, and then you go and watch a ballet and you're like, oh, this
It's
is
very different.
very,
Yeah.
very different, but it's
Mhm.
very, very clean. It's very artistic. I really, really hope I'll be there for the 40th. It's
Yeah.
this year. Like with what we're doing, we should be out, and I should be probably flying around the world. We'll probably be there around,
Well,
you know.
keep your calendar open for May 5th, which is our final gala performance to celebrate that 40th anniversary coming up.
Oh, May 5th. May 5th.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's phenomenal. So, what was my next question? So, we're going to talk about edge classes.
Yay.
Oh, for anyone that doesn't know what an edge class is, yeah, you can explain what an edge class is, and I'd really like you to explain the key advantages for skaters' development, because it is really it is. You know what? For a lot of people, like, oh, I don't want to do edge class. It's hard. That's the
That's
key.
the point.
So yeah, from your kind of perspective,
I think there's so many benefits to Edge class, but the and to be entirely frank, I don't really try to sell people on Edge class. Um, I think that they can see the results and the work speaks for itself, honestly. But an edge class is a focused class on development of skating skill, and kind of precision of movement and alignment, to enhance the artistic potential of our basic skating skills. I think that it also is an invaluable tool when you're talking about skaters that are either aspiring professionals or within a professional company or a touring show or any of these things. It's a really vital tool to learn a skill that most skaters in their individual, or even, just me and my partner, or just, in competition, we don't work together in large groups.
yeah,
And yet that skill is utilized in shows. It's utilized, we do a lot of ensemble work with Ice Theater, and learning to move together seamlessly and track other people in space, and keep that kind of harmonious composition of movement as you're traveling through space is, it's a skill you have to hone, and edge classes are a fantastic way to do that. We generally speaking in our ice theater classes start with one large group and very simple movements all together, and then break it into, times we're running in lines and then times we're running in flocks where we're really tracking down the ice. And these things do hone our professionals as much as, attendees who are taking this as a class to develop skill. I personally, I find the pursuit of really good technique on the ice incredibly valuable. And personally, the one drawback of teaching edge classes, I do miss doing it very often.
Yeah.
So I put myself through my own class, but it's not the same. In some ways, it's such a beautiful feeling to achieve that movement and that satisfaction of hearing the rumble of, four simultaneous, really good deep edges that are moving together in exact unison. And I think too, with just kind of the personal development of alignment and style on the ice, edge class is giving you the foundation. Everything has to build from the blade on the ground up the rest of your body. And one of the things that makes skating particularly unique as a form of dance and a form of movement is this is one of the only permutations where you can be holding your body absolutely still and still traveling through space as part of the dance. And having the skill set to be able to do that without interruption to that flow or without losing your balance is something we do in edge class.
Oh, yeah, you've sold it to me. I mean,
Good.
I do remember in Holiday on Ice, and it's like, oh, because I'm not world skater or anything. Yeah, I would try my best, but some stuff I'm just like, yeah, this is just tough. But you try. But one of the
Mhm.
great things I feel is like you do the moves, the edges, the turns both ways. So
Mhm.
we've all got our favorite turns, our favorite ways to
Oh,
do it.
yes.
You have both ways, right? So it does make you improve. It
It
really
does.
does. When I was in roller world coaching on inlines and quads, I put together a few edge. It was only alone, and I did try to do them with some of the skaters, but it was very very basic.
Mhm.
It's just personally you just want to improve, or maybe it's you get to a certain age, and then you focus more on improvement as opposed to other things. It's I feel like we've got very similar journeys with ages. I'm a little bit older than you now, but it's very very similar. But
Mhm. Yeah.
hopefully, when I do come over there, I can come and take part in an edge class, and hopefully,
Yeah, come take class, and we really welcome skaters who are visiting New York to come join us for a class. We have registration available on our website, icetheater.org, for our classes, and we love having guests come. We have a beautiful skating community here in New York that's very open, very accepting, very welcoming. And we have a lot of adult skaters who participate as a part of these classes. They outnumber our company members quite significantly. And they're there to learn and develop and share a sense of community in moving together. And, we teach the classes to kind of structure to the pace of, we can challenge a professional and we can help a skater develop a skill with the same exercise. And these things are super helpful, across all disciplines of skating, all ages of skaters. Um, it's just a different way of moving together. So we would love it if you and anyone else would like to come take class. Please
So,
join us.
so you hear that, all my crypto people, because this is on Twitter as well, so they're all watching. If you are in New York, then find the Ice Theatre of New York, get yourself some skates, and it's
Know your basic turns and edges and crossovers and come join us. Yes,
you
it's
never know. Maybe once I do start traveling with one blades around the world, we will start doing some little pop-up events in some of the places that I go. So I will have some of the people that are part of my projects coming down, and maybe we get them on the ice or on wheels or something. I don't know, because you got some roller rinks in New York as well, right? I bet you got some.
We do. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have some roller rinks here as well, and I have definitely skated in many places you're not supposed to inline or roller skate.
Haven't we all? Haven't we all?
That was one of the unique joys of the pandemic, was so many empty buildings and no one really telling you couldn't, do that,
Oh,
or
definitely. Well, I
moving fast enough that you can't be caught. Also, totally an option.
Well, I was in Vegas, so I had the strip to skate on. After I trained for 3 months in a garage, we went on the strip, and I made loads of videos with nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
I do that now. You know,
Yep,
so
I inline skated on the subway, in Grand Central Station, in all sorts of buildings, and you know, on the streets. Like, it was wild to have, you know, somewhere as busy as, you know, Fifth Avenue, down by Rockefeller Center, completely empty of vehicles and just a big wide open surface I could play with, and that, you know, I used that pandemic time very effectively.
no, it was an interesting time. I will
It
will say
was.
that because it was different for everybody. For some people it wasn't so great, to say,
Right.
the least, you know. But anyway, so let's get back to Ice Theatre of New York. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just from what I have seen, there's been some incredible skaters, choreographers, coaches, you know, just some really notable people, like, you know, the current class, the current people that are there now, from coaches to skaters and choreographers. Like, who are your kind of standouts from the past couple of years, would you say?
Um, that's a really fantastic question. You know, to me, some of the most satisfying work I've done with ice theater has been working with choreographers from the dance world. In the most recent seasons, we have worked with Joanna Mendelshaw on a repertory piece that was originally from the 90s, that she co-choreographed with Doug Webster, called the Appalachia Waltz. It's been a brilliantly challenging piece to learn, and I've enjoyed the process immensely. And I also had the opportunity to work a couple seasons ago with Jody Sperling, who has the Time Lapse Dance Company, doing a two-person piece with Wings, and with Alberto Del Saz, who choreographed a repertory piece that was actually the piece that inspired me to join Ice Theater. And I was so honored to get to perform this. And it was a three-person trio, where we were in one costume.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, it was a unitard with attached panels, and we were using that to slingshot each other around in the piece, which was,
I kind of want to see a picture or a video of this.
it's delightful. Le Revolt des Enfants is the name of the piece, and
Yeah.
it is on our YouTube and all our social media. So, you know, having those opportunities to kind of combine these two worlds I love so much and work with people outside of the sphere of skating has been phenomenal to me and has really grown my world, um, in innumerable ways. And you know, I've also been very fortunate to have a skating partner in my time here, that I've been working with for the last 3 years, Aaron Singletary. And he has been an amazing presence in my life, by far one of the most joyful partnerships I've ever experienced. And I truly have come to care about him as a friend, as well as, you know, a person that I get to work with as part of my job. And I'm intensely grateful for that experience.
No, that's phenomenal. And you must have there must have been some skaters there that have kind of come to you quite young, and then developed, like they may have come at 18 and developed over a few years, and then gone on to other things. Like, do you remember any skaters that would fit that kind of criteria?
I have had many of those skaters in my career as a coach, but within the scope of ice theater, most of our people come to us a little bit later and a little more experienced. We have apprentices with the company that are kind of bridging into that work from competitive skating. And we always, you know, enthusiastically welcome. Part of that developmental process is very important to us. We have an extensive outreach program for public school kids in New York City, and we have run things like a junior ensemble for kids who are still actively competitive skaters, and they're, you know, younger. And then we have our performing apprentices who are kind of looking towards that, you know, professional career road, but perhaps not interested in the touring shows and things like that, but looking for more of that artistically challenging work. But you know, as a coach, I've had so many students go on to careers with all sorts of different organizations and companies and things like that. And I'm incredibly proud of all of them, because those journeys are so unique to each one of them as humans. And it would not be right of me to single one out, I don't think, in this
This,
case.
I'm sat here thinking, I'm like, it's one of those situations where you're like, if I start naming names, I will forget someone,
I
and
have
I'll
too
have a
many
question straight
names.
away. What about me? So I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been so lucky to be involved in teaching skaters for the last 26 years. And I deeply care about every single student I've had, regardless of how far they've gone on that journey, or whether they've chosen to leave it behind for other things. To me, their version of success is truly the most important part, and my job is to facilitate that wherever that may be.
No, great answer. Great answer. So, looking back, what would you say are some of your proudest moments, your proudest accomplishments through skating or dance? That what comes to mind for you?
Um, I've been very proud of the work I've done, but I am a process person and not really a performance person. Performing is fine. I enjoy it. It's not my why. So I don't have some big show that I can be like, that one time that I did this incredible thing, that was my proudest moment. I think for me, really the part of this that I'm the most proud of is that I've had the resilience to do it, in spite of a lot of challenges along the way, that I've been able to build a life that's been guided by things I love, and that I'm fortunate enough to have a career in doing that. I think in a lot of ways, many people in my life expected me to eventually let go of this and grow up and get a real job, and I just really kind of refused.
Yeah.
um and I don't regret that. I will take every moment of struggle I've had along the way, for the trade-off of the reward of doing something that I'm happy to be doing every day and that I love, and that ultimately I think is the thing I feel the most accomplished in, is that I love the work and I get to do the work in every capacity of how I engage in that. To me, it's this interwoven thing, that is all vital to my sense of place in the world and also who I am. That's
Definitely, definitely.
that's rare.
Oh no, I agree. And like these personal accomplishments that people don't see, where you felt like quitting, but you just, you know what, I'll do it. I'll push through. And no one knows, but you do. We do. We know what we personally go through. And every single person has these moments. So that's quite beautiful. So with Ice Theatre of New York, and for personally now, like with where you're at now, like what are some of your goals, some of the aims that you have over the next 50, 60 years?
That's an ambitious timeline for how long I'm gonna survive.
Let's let's
I'm like 50 years. Oh, I don't know about this. Not being decrepit. More so than I am. I really I've been really fascinated with this combination of aerial work and skating. And one of the things that I'm really excited about developing is ways that I can integrate these two, art forms in ways that are unexpected and a little more exciting. I think the transitions from ice to air can be fascinating. I developed a piece and choreographed, for Ice Theater this fall, an aerial duet piece where we were combining pairs skating and the use of aerial equipment. And I'd like to stretch that, into ensemble pieces, which is something I have planned, coming up. I also really have just enjoyed kind of finding different ways of challenging my assumptions, and I think some assumptions in skating of um, what those options are for how we move or how we do things, and building greater inclusion into that is huge to me. I want to see skating be a robust and diverse community, I really work hard to champion that, and to lead by example in that as much as I can. So continuing those avenues, and truly, I want to see 50 or 60 or 100 years. I want to see ice theater outlive my time. And that's something that I really care deeply about. Is I am so grateful and so honored by the opportunities I've had to do what I do, and I want to see generation after generation of skaters be able to have that option to pursue skating on this artistic, soulful level, where I am fortunate for that opportunity. I want to make sure that that opportunity continues for other skaters who, maybe they want to keep skating and they want to pursue that at a professional level, but the show skating aspect is not necessarily their jam. For me, I never was interested in doing one of the touring shows, and I never did. But this part of skating, this kind of professional work, is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, touring shows, they're good when you're 20, early 20s. But when you don't care being treated, not to be treated badly, but 12-hour bus, it's when it's
I'm
more,
very happy to like go home to my apartment and not people when I'm done with my days.
yeah, and you have a window like cruise ships. You go on there and you live like a prisoner. You got a little bed, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
give me
I
an
that's
apartment, give me a view.
it's just never been my world. I am so much a I need structure to function in a way that if I don't really understand where I'm at and what's going on and what the path is, it gives me intense anxiety. So having the ability to kind of build my world around something I'm doing, but also have that separation from it, is really important. And I think, when I was 20, I was, you know, coming off of professional skating. I had no interest in putting myself through more.
So it's interesting that you say 20 years old because you know if you could talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? What would you tell yourself?
Frankly, when I was 20, I was not in a great place in my life. And I think just having, you know, the resilience that I ended up developing to survive that was a lot. So I would tell my 20-year-old self that there is a possibility things will get better. When I was 20, I was struggling very much with my identity as an LGBTQ person. I didn't fit in the world. Everything was hard. I was burnt out. And, frankly, I barely survived. And I was a mess. I think having a figure that could say to me in that moment, no, there is a way this is going to work for you and you can't give up, would have been useful. But also I think the tenacity that I developed kind of figuring that out on my own is invaluable to me.
No,
So
definitely. I heard a quote, and you may listen to a lot of stuff like I do, but the good times they don't last forever, and the bad times they don't last forever as well. And when you're in the good
correct.
times, you do feel like this is it
Mhm,
forever, but no, it changes. So you got to keep at it. Whatever you're doing,
mhm.
you just got to keep going. And the sweet doesn't taste as sweet without the sour. You've got to have the bad times to enjoy the good times.
I think a large part of how I've developed as an artist has been out of struggle, frankly.
Definitely.
And I'm grateful for the struggle, and I have embraced a lot of challenges in my life. I've had some very hard times. This love of movement has been the one thing that has kind of been the one thing that, I really have gripped onto as a part of who I am and a part of what I want out of life and what's meaningful to me. And really, I would not have survived without it. So,
Well,
um,
well done for you for coming through all of that. It's like I think a lot of the time we kind of you get through it and you don't really give yourself a pat on the back. You don't reflect and go, you know what? well done for me for getting through that. So I'm saying well done for you.
Thank you.
Like we're here to inspire the next generation, right? There will be 20-year-olds, 18-year-old, 19, 21 that are going through tough times and they're just like, shall I quit? Shall I give up on my dream and go and help someone else achieve their dreams, as in work for somebody else in their company and they're doing something, or shall I keep going and just keep going? I would always say, keep going whilst you really have it here. If you don't have it here, then you won't keep going, right?
Right.
It's I've enjoyed chatting with you. So
Good. I have to.
I thought it was going to be awful.
You wouldn't be the only one to assume that, honestly.
You were thinking the same thing. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get with me.
I mean, I am I think it's funny. I'm very confident as a public speaker. I'm very confident in interviews, but if you ask me small talk questions at a party, I'm internally panicking the entire time and just trying really hard to not show that. It is definitely a challenge.
Well, here's the
But
thing, like, what is it they say, well, I'm not going to state the demographics or whatever it is, but there's certain people talk about people, certain people talk about events, and then there's other people that talk about ideas. I only like to talk about ideas. So, me personally, when I'm around some people, I used to go and play poker a lot. But I didn't really get on with the guys because they're just talking, oh, you see this football over there, and oh, look at that there, and talking about people. And I'm like, I want to talk about crypto and I want to talk about, but I wouldn't talk about those things. So unless you find your people, then you won't really mix. And some
yes, I'm a person of deeply diverse interests and a very curious mind. And I think I am more than happy to engage in conversation when it's something of interest to me. And I am happy to monologue at people for long periods of time about the things that do interest me deeply. But I don't really derive great joy in staying at the surface level of things. People are fascinating, but I'm more interested in, I don't need to know who's doing what over where or with who. I want to understand why.
yeah,
And the why that people provide verbally versus the one that I see in their patterns, there can be very different things, and that's very interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, ideas are amazing, and I think I also just really enjoy seeing what makes somebody come alive, what they're passionate about, and that's always engaging. I'm delighted to listen when somebody is telling me what makes them happy. It's always interesting. I always learn something, whether it's about the subject or about that person.
Happy is a strange word for me. I find, it's often, I don't know if I would say, oh, I'm really happy. I'm
I
enjoying.
pretty much never say I'm happy.
I
I
mean,
either express it physically or I don't know what's going on.
it's I mean, as a man, I mean, this goes for men and women as well. But I think when you have a purpose, when you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm trying to build this company, or I'm going to coach and give back, or you have something as opposed to wake up, go and do a job that you hate, and you've got to travel there and travel back and deal with people there, and then you come home and you're in a relationship that you got into for the wrong reasons and you actually have nothing to talk about. I think everybody's been in relationships where you got into the relationship too quick because you fancied the arse of each other. And then when it comes down to it, the conversations, you're missing. They want to talk about something and you're trying to talk about skating and they don't, I mean, this is why I've been single now for 2 years. I'm like, if I get into a relationship, they need to be like, have their own startup, or they need to be in business, or they need to be a skater. We need to have stuff that we could just talk for hours on and learn and grow together, as opposed to you're attractive. Oh, I'm attracted to each other. Oh, let's fall in love. It's not fairy tales, we're not
I
kids.
think passion is very important.
Oh yeah,
I am someone that, I don't necessarily verbally express how I feel super often, but I feel things very deeply. And the things that I am passionate about, it is such an all-consuming thing, and that has really been, this is what my career is based on, is these things I love. And yes, I think the people that I'm drawn to and interested in have things that are consuming to them. I don't need to share those things.
Yeah.
But they need to have them.
Yeah. I mean, I've always found someone that talent, it doesn't matter what it is. They could be a singer, they could just be an incredible engineer, whatever it is, but they don't have to be the best, but they just have to have something and they have to love it. That's attractive, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know where this is going. We're just talking about relationships now, aren't we?
We've
So
kind of diverted from the skating at this point, but that is fine.
the thing, right? Sometimes a podcast it's just about having a conversation. People get
Mhm.
to see you, and they get to see me, kind of thing. And something I was thinking about before, and I believe that every single person on the planet is misunderstood. I feel like we all feel that we're misunderstood because nobody knows us apart from ourselves. It's just
That's
It's just I thought I was thinking it before, and it was something I was talking to someone about before. But what do you think about that? Like most people are misunderstood for who they are deep down from how the world sees them, or not.
I think I think that I can really only speak to my own experiences with that, because I don't necessarily really understand um, how other people would approach that. But I know for me, the drive for understanding and to be understood is a deeply complicated process. I think um, I think we would all like to feel like we have people that value us for who we are, and also who we are, to ourselves. Um, and I've been very fortunate in having people who are invested in getting to know me on the, slow, socially awkward basis I can offer most of the time. But I have also always said that in a lot of ways, it is not, to know me is to know how I move. It's to know the way I feel because I'm expressing it the only way I know how. Um, and I think it takes a degree of awareness of another person that's pretty rare, to engage in that way. I try very hard to pay very close attention to the people that I keep close in my life. And I am deeply loyal to those people that I do choose to connect with, or feel that I can. But I have learned to not expect understanding in a lot of ways. I'm quite content with understanding myself as best I can. Um, but when something touches on that, or I have a chance to articulate for myself how I see the world, it is important to me to do so. And I try my best to, share my perspective on the timelines that, make sense. Um, and I think a part of my putting myself out in the world and being very open about the type of person I am, and how I do interact with life, is a desire to build a more understanding world. Um, and that is not necessarily about me in that case. That's a I want to I want people to engage with a more understanding world than the one I knew growing up. And that's vital in my mind. So, I think understanding is a complicated thing, but I think art is a part of how we get there. And that betrays our humanity and our souls, in a way that we are confronted with the realities of who we are, but we are also given the option of how we can make life more beautiful. And that's a gift.
Wow. Wow. That was quite powerful. I'm
Thanks.
I'm not going to add anything onto that because I just feel like I'm a monkey over here, just like jumping around. That was, wow, that was quite special, Sarah. Yeah, you just have a little drink there. Have a little drink.
Yeah, I mean, this is more talking than I usually do in a day.
Me too, unless I'm talking to Dad. Then we talk a lot. So when you eventually do hang your skates up and you move, maybe move on to something different and you close your book on skating, if that happens, how would you like to be remembered for what you've done in skating and your contributions to the skating world?
I think I think you'll be prying the skates off of my corpse, to be honest with you. But I don't intend on performing forever, and I understand that there is a shelf life to that I will face at some point. I hope with some degree of grace and dignity about it. But I don't think I'll ever step fully out of this world. I'm very honored to facilitate. And I see great joy in that. I do love to teach. I do love to help people find their way to navigate towards what their dreams and goals are. Both as a coach and as someone who has kind of mentored many people through this world. And I think that process is something that I'm really invested in continuing for the rest of my life. I think, I think skating and dance are always going to be a part of who I am, and I don't think I can actually, function without those things. But the performative aspect of that has never been vital to me, and I am quite satisfied to only perform in my living room for myself to a good piece of music and just enjoy it. I kind of see all of life as choreography. So I make up little, walking scores as I navigate the city and have all sorts of little permutations of how I enjoy that. I anticipate that those things will always be a part of who I am. But I do think, the next for me is I'd like to, deepen my work as a choreographer. I'm really invested in the study of that. And I think I want to facilitate people that love this with that kind of, deep sense of passion, and find ways to include them in this world and make it work. For those voices that are going to follow mine, and I hope, continue on with everything that I could only dream of.
Wow, wow, this has been
I'm not
great.
a light and fluffy answers person, so
This has been great. Often I do like to add some of my perspective, but it's like there's just nothing. There's just nothing to add. So we're pretty much there. We're
yeah,
pretty much
great.
there. We've got one. I've got one last question, and before I ask the last question, is there anything that you'd like to? Is there anything you wish people knew about you that they don't know? Is there anything that comes to mind? It's and if there isn't, then I mean I'm sure there is, and yeah, I could
I
give you.
mean, I'm certain there's a lot of things people don't know about me. I am much more approachable than most people seem to think I am in person. I just am very awkward. But I'm very open to questions and things like that. And certainly I'm quite available on all of the social media platforms. But I think um, I think if I could kind of sum up something I wish people knew, and generally don't, is that I am constantly processing at least 6 different things at any given time. And, simultaneously engaged in my own mental world and the one around me. Um, but the things that they say and do really do stick with me, and I care deeply about them. I may not always show it the most effectively, but I think to me, being willing to give people a chance to really show them who they are, and show you who they are, and be a you know be a person that's willing to not approach people judgmentally, but with curiosity, is huge. I am delighted to speak for myself, and find that I don't always know when. So I think that might be the aspect of me that people who know me in person don't always grasp right away, is that, I'm just as curious about you as you may be about me. But I'm going to learn by observation most of the time. And I'm totally cool with being said hello to. I'm just probably going to have no idea what's going on.
You're like, I'm just watching you guys. You can come
I
in.
mean, like, I am such a periphery human. Like, I love to be like, somewhere where I can just watch what's going on. And to me, that is a way I'm trying to understand my environment so that I know how to participate in it. And I'm very deliberate about that. And I'm very observant of the people around me and the world around me. I notice small details and things that other people walk by very easily or miss. And that can be fantastic, and it can be really annoying.
Oh yeah,
I am going to be the person that's like, oh, you are like a quarter of an inch wrong on that edge, because I can hear the difference.
yeah.
But by the same token, I'm saying that with all the love in the world, because I want you to do it right.
You know, yeah. Maybe you should have been a detective.
I'm sure there's a great number of things I could have done that would have been much more stable choices than what I do career wise. I'm not interested in any of them. I've had the opportunities, and this is what I've always wanted. But I think uh, I love to learn things, and I won't rule out a life where I continue to do that. And where that will take, I kind of bop around and just investigate various things. I'm very interested in neuroscience lately, so I've been reading a lot about that. Um, I, I like to take things apart and fix them. Tinker.
Any good books you would recommend on neuroscience?
Right now, I am reading a book that is the neuroscience of dance. It's fascinating to me because it's talking about how our brains process movement. And I've definitely enjoyed that one immensely. I'm reading it very slowly because I'm digging into everything they talk about along the way. Um, Other than that, I've been reading a lot of books also about how the brain processes music. So a great introductory one on this is Your Brain on Music. It's a great title for that. And it really kind of dives into how we process sound. And I think that's such an integrated part of skating and dance, is how we move to music, and that aspect of things. So that's been interesting to me. Otherwise, I've
Yeah,
always got 4 or 5 books going in different locations, and and I'm always scribbling in my own. I journal extensively, and doodle a lot. I love all things art, so that's a big component of my processing time as well. Is I've been carrying around these little black sketchbooks for most of my life, that I doodle in and parse my thoughts into. And so I spend a fair amount of time, you know, creating my own little tableau of the world as well.
yeah. Like something I was just thinking about there is like how needed music is in the world. You know, as someone that has spent a lot of time in shows with music, like
Hmm.
the time now, all I listen to is personal development, Gary V, Alex Rosie, or motivation. I'm only listening to people talking about ideas and different things, and occasionally I'm just gonna put some music on, and I'll put nice music on, and I'm like, oh, so nice. You know,
Yes.
I don't listen to music enough. Because I don't have an off switch. If I'm doing something, that's what I'm doing. Like when I was doing acrobatic skating with Rosie or with whoever,
Hmm.
that's what we're doing. We're waking up, we're making content, and we're putting it out there, and we're performing for the world, and we're improving. That's what I'm doing. And then as soon as I stop, it stops, and now I'm doing crypto.
Something else.
We're doing crypto, and then but now I'm doing multiple. I like I'm a conductor trying to do my crypto, and I'm doing the business, and we're doing this, and I'm learning. I'm having the things I have to learn at the moment is that it's just hard. But
Yes,
yeah,
I also tend to hyperfixate in specific areas. I definitely have done that in some pretty obscure branches of life, but music is just absolutely vitally important to me. And I really do use it as a tool in a lot of ways. I love to find the right music that expresses what I need to kind of work my way through. So I do listen to music every day. But I'm also a big fan of podcasts, and I listen to a lot of those too. I love to learn, so that's a big part of that as well. I'm delighted living in New York City. I commute by train pretty much everywhere, and I love the subway. I may be the only person in New York that's like, yes, the subway. Um, but but I love that time because it does build in a mandated point in my day where I have to stop
oh
and
yeah,
I have to pay attention to something other than, I mean, I can sit there and quite happily entertain myself in my brain for a long period of time, but having that space where I kind of build in this buffer of decompression as I transition from one place to another in my day is really vital to me in a lot of aspects. And that is my time where I am often listening to podcasts or reading a book or writing in mine or drawing something or coming up with choreography in my brain on the platform or figuring out how the entire subway is assembled and disassembling it mentally because that's normal, right?
uh, sure. Are you a YouTube Premium person?
I am, yes.
Yeah, God. Do you remember back? I mean, I think a long time for me when you like, shall I do it? Shall I not? And you download it, and then I can turn off my screen, and it just keeps playing.
Yes, I actually use that feature a lot. I tend to fall asleep to various things telling me educational materials. And so I very often use that feature, but I love being able to listen to things. And yeah, TED Talks on YouTube.
Yeah.
I love listening to those.
I'm curious if we do something similar. Maybe like for everyone listening. So this is what I do when I'm going to bed because I'm alone. There's no one else in my bed with me or anything. Never. I wish there was. I'm just lucky. So I find something that's about 10 to 15 minutes long, and then I
Mhm.
play that and I have it so it's not autoplay. That's how I go to sleep. I wonder if there's many people that do that, or if you do something similar. You have to find something.
So, I have kind of a funny quirk. I have terrible insomnia and I sleep very little, unless truly forced. I tend to stay up well into the night and run on very little sleep most days. And I'm an afternoon napper most of the time. But so there's this movie. And it's this is going to be a weird choice. So David Lynch's Dune, which is an older science fiction version of the recent Dune movies, right? It's really outdated. And there is a specific scene in that if I'm having a hard time sleeping, I will put on the movie Dune and I make it my mission to fall asleep before I see this one specific
Oh,
scene in the movie that just for whatever reason has been the pinpoint of when I want to go to bed. And so I will watch the movie Dune if I'm truly trying to sleep and I cannot.
So what happens in this? I'm sure people are wondering, like, what actually happens? You can't say that and then.
So there's this character. He's kind of the bad guy in the film, right? And there's this scene where he like rises up and is being all rare, and you see his feet and they're really disgusting. And I want to go to sleep before I see the feet. So so that's my weird fall asleep thing. I do also sometimes listen to podcasts, but anything that I'm trying to fall asleep to is something I've listened to many times. And I take a great degree of comfort in re-listening and re-watching and rereading things, so I tend to do that. I'm happy to branch out and learn new things when I'm more mentally awake, but for night, I kind of have a playlist of 15 or so podcasts that I am very delighted to listen to or find somewhat soothing, and none of them are on soothing subject matters. And I will fall asleep to that, or I will put on the movie Dune and try to fall asleep before the Baron Harkonnen's fate, or I listen to music and have playlists that are just very chill. But I've learned that playlists that could contain any new music mean that I will stay up and mentally choreograph all of the new things. So, so that can be dangerous.
Oh God, it's like you spark my imagination so much because you know when you're looking for a piece, you've got an idea and you're looking for the music that will fit your idea, and then you listen and you're like, this could be it, and then it's no next, and you just like it's this is a whole process. Like we could probably just keep talking forever.
I think process is a huge thing. I tend to listen to a piece of music and see how it moves, and that tends to be my working style. I am very fortunate in that, I've been given a great degree of leeway to let my brain run how I want to run it. And I spend a lot of time researching movement when I choreograph. I play with things online. I do a lot of improvisation. I'm very invested in that.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, if I hear something new and I'm like, oh, I can see how that would go over here, and this is its spatial pathway, then like we're all screwed. I'm never sleeping.
So I know we will get to the last question, but I've got too many. There's too many things I want to ask you. I've got you here. We're talking. So, favorite artist or favorite song at the moment that you're listening to, like something that I can put on afterwards. I can just chill
Oh,
and like, this is nice, you know.
um, that's a fantastic question. I'm listening to so many things, and I have very wide-ranging music tastes. So I am very much a fan of there's a band called IMX, which I have appreciated for a long time, and I listen to a lot of their music. It's probably not super ice skater friendly. It's pretty dark. I enjoy it a lot. I have been really enjoying London Grammar released a new album recently, and that's been quite good. I listen to a lot of classical music. I love opera, and I actually go to the opera quite regularly here. So that gets pretty frequently played things. And I don't know. I think lately, a lot of the music I've been listening to probably falls under the category of contemporary classical. And I've been kind of parsing my way through a lot of, you know, kind of combinations of electronic music that don't necessarily feel so electronic. So I'm building some pieces to some of those in my head.
Mhm. Okay. Interesting. So we will get to the last question, and then
Okay.
you can go because I mean it's almost 90 minutes. You know, this has been great.
Yeah.
So, what is the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received, and that you would like to now pass on to me, to everybody watching, to the next generation? Could be about anything. Could be in life. It could just be something that has helped you.
I think the best piece of advice I got that I think shaped how I approached my trajectory that got me here. Um, was a very good friend of mine said that when somebody offers you an opportunity, say yes. Don't think of a way that it won't work. Don't feel concerned about it. If they've made the offer, say yes. And I've really tried to embrace that because I tend to hesitate. If I'm not explicitly sure that something has been offered, or that I'm invited somewhere, it's hard for me to understand. You should versus I would like you to. But he said always say yes to opportunities because the worst that's going to happen is that you're in the same situation you are now. Um, and you may have some phenomenal experience you wouldn't have had otherwise. And so I started saying yes to more opportunities and more interesting, things that came my way. And I think saying yes to ice theater was really life changing for me. I think saying yes to working with the Equus Projects has been a big thing for me. I think saying yes to, would I like to try all these various things that are now the forms of movement that I'm so invested in. Those have all been fantastic things to say yes to. So I think just being open to that opportunity and saying yes. And I am deeply appreciative that somebody encouraged me in that direction.
Yeah, and you forgot the most important. You said yes to me. You came on. You came on the podcast.
I did. Yes, I
No,
said yes to
I
doing the podcast.
am joking, but I'm actually kind of not joking because I know of you from what I have seen on social media, and I don't
Mhm.
stalk you, so I may see one every 20, 30th post,
I
anything.
am also not super reliable about posting a lot of content. I refuse to ever make content specifically for social media. It's things that are already things I'm doing, but I don't go out of my way for that. So if you're trying to stalk me on social media, I'm bad at it
Yeah,
for
no,
that. I'm much more interested in posting for all of the things I'm doing than, myself is much less interesting to me.
no, but I think like I've really got to see you, got to hear you. It's been 90 minutes that we've talked, and you've talked majority of this, and it's been incredible,
Yes.
really, to get to know you on a different level than I did now. And I think for everybody watching, there's a lot to take away here about you as a person, the way you think, what you've done, what you're trying to do, and the way that you go about things. And I think it's great for people to see people.
I am glad and honored to, be able to share and appreciate the opportunity to give people an insight into my world and the things I love to do in it.
No, it's been great to have you on, Sarah, and I hope that I will be there on the 5th of May, and I can come to one of your classes, and
Yes, please.
I think
Uh,
it'll be great.
we're, yeah, it would be fantastic to have, you there and anyone else that wants to join us. There's many opportunities here to be a part of all this crazy and and I'm always delighted to have people come join for class or keep up with, what we're doing online if you're not here in person. And we should have videos soon from our fall performances posted, which would be great. And yeah,
I
it's very
can't wait.
exciting.
I can't wait. Are there any last kind of closing words, remarks you'd like to say before we wrap this up? And before you do that, just because there's still quite a lot of people watching, make sure if you're on YouTube that you subscribe and that you like and you leave a little comment. And if you're watching anywhere else, give it a like, share it with people because this needs to be seen. This has been a great conversation between us. I think there's a lot of value here for other people. So yeah, any last words before
You
we uh,
know,
we put the
I
final
think
curtain down.
I think the biggest takeaway, if I could dispense one piece of advice into the world, is to really encourage people to live their life authentically and don't apologize for who they are. Um, Learn to find spaces for yourself, whether you have to carve them out or whether you find people that are accepting of that. There's so much value in what we each contribute as individuals, and there is a home for that somewhere in the world. So I would really like to see people feel encouraged to embrace their authentic selves and enjoy the opportunities that come from that.
Wow, yeah. Be yourself, guys. Be yourself. Well, Sarah, it's been great. It's been phenomenal. I've really
It's been
enjoyed
a
it.
pleasure. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast.
And hopefully we will have Moira on at the weekend. I'm hoping that she'll be able to come on, and maybe have some ideas for some other guests that we can come on. We can talk about
I would be happy to recommend some people for you.
you'll know some people, but we do have quite a few lined up already. We've got, I think, about 4 or 5 at the moment. We have got a roller skater from America that's just been on the Roller Jam show. She's going to be coming on, and some other Stardust that have multiple golden buzzers, and I'm a little bit jealous, but whatever. No,
Fabulous.
it's amazing. It's just good. It's just good. You know what? Something that I personally love. I love to see people doing well. It's so cool. I love to see other people doing well. And sometimes you do have a sense of a little bit of jealousy. It's a natural thing that we all feel it, and I feel it, and I'm like, no, put it aside. It's good for them. So it's natural. Like their emotions, you can't help but feel these emotions. But let's just cut it off. Cut it off. We're gonna keep talking. So anyway, guys, thank you, Sarah, so much. And guys, make sure that you do go and give me your email address. And there's a little bit of information. It's the very, very first link here. That helps me. That'll help you when we get down the road, and follow the socials, and just be good. Just be good. Help us out. Anyway, Sarah, thank you so much. Take
Thank
care of
you.
yourself, and we will jump on. We'll jump on a call soon.